Hello, and welcome to your reading. Thank you so much for tuning in, and everybody who's been liking and subscribing. Thank you so much for that. It's very much appreciated. We have the Empress in the upright. So there's a feminine energy, very, very abundant, very, very wealthy, very much able to create and sustain life and create and sustain wealth. Queen of the Queens, motherly figure, sort of nurturing, maternal, the idea of nature. It's like the idea of like Mother Earth, like nature sort of embodied in a person. So it's a good place to be feminine energy wise. It doesn't have to be a woman, it could be a masculine energy embodying their ability to make and create abundance and sustain that thing. Sustain that wonderful creation aspect. Got a Queen of Cups. So this just kind of amplifies the Queen of Cups in the upright. Just kind of amplifies the Queen, the Empress, because there's a nurturing aspect to the Empress that is also a nurturing aspect to the Queen of Cups. So whoever you are, whoever this reading is for, they this person is incredibly nurturing, incredibly open, and really caring about other people, and really caring about living things, and caring about everything, and not to the point of being overwhelmed or being burnt out, but that's who they are, and they want everyone to do well. They're willing to share. They can nurture themselves, and they can sort of provide an example on how to nurture oneself. And there is compassion and ability to understand things. So like it adds to that. It adds to that really great nurturing energy. There's a Page of Wands in the upright. So the page energy represents a person who's kind of a little bit younger or less mature or less developed in their abilities. So this would be someone who is learning how to do a certain thing, or is sort of practicing creating or practicing expressing that fire energy, that one's energy of creation and expression and power and confidence, and they're just a little bit inexperienced at this point, but they're coming from that place of childlike innocence in their creation. So then they express themselves when they're on it and in the upright. They express themselves in a way that other people's criticisms or other people's thoughts about it don't really matter as much, because they haven't kind of internalized other people's ideas of what it should be or what is possible. Also, they don't generally criticize their own creation because they're just in it so much. So this will be such a beautiful expression of that energy, because this person here, it has that, I don't want to say naivete, but like they don't have that that thing that happens when people get older, when they start sort of feeling it's slipping off the tip of my tongue, but jaded. They're not jaded yet. They're, everything is like brand new and everything is beautiful, and they're not going to judge themselves and their creation based on other things, because they are in it and that is who they are. I have a Four of Wands in the upright, which represents like the four walls around us: safety, support, balance, and the ability to sort of get away from it all. Like the idea of coming home and dropping the weight of the day and just relaxing, and being with yourself, or someone else, or other people that you care about, even just you. Um, Everything is like, it's like everything is taken care of, everything's provided for. There's no fear and overwhelming stress, and it's a stable four wall situation. This Empress and Queen of Cups could represent, if I'm speaking about it as a person, they could represent one feminine energy or two feminine energies, and the Page of Wands could represent a child. So this could be a family in the four walls situation, so a happy, healthy, supportive home. It could be that as well. There's a Page of Swords in the upright. So once again, the page with their energy of sort of being a little bit less experienced in their situation, kind of like a child or someone who is a little bit less grown up and mature, is learning how to communicate. Like they're practicing using their sword, like they're practicing listening, and they're practicing speaking, and they're practicing communication, and they're practicing using their mind. Like they're practicing using their mind to understand things, and using their logic side to figure out things, to think about things, and to judge things in a way that is not necessarily hampered by externals, or not necessarily hampered by a lot of years of like prejudice or preferences in the mind. They're new with it, so they could sort of go in a direction where they could criticize their own thoughts, or sorry, they probably won't go in that direction where they criticize their own thoughts, because they aren't really at that level of like criticizing their thoughts and seeing themselves as having issues with their own thoughts. They just do. And they just say things, right? If they have something to say, if they want to say something, they just say it. They don't constantly check and say, is that right to say? They just do. They just communicate. And we have the Queen of Pentacles in reverse. So it's a feminine energy of the Queen, but the Pentacles are in reverse. So this is a person who's in that feminine energy who has an issue with finances. Maybe they have a problem with overspending, or maybe they have a problem with gambling, or maybe they are accumulating wealth in ways that is not illegal or not morally upstanding in their own mind. Even they could steal, or they could even just overextend themselves financially, like credit wise. They could sort of be like not grounded and irresponsible with their material aspects, not just necessarily money, but their material aspects as well. They may have a difficult time sort of gauging how long a certain thing will last when they're trying to figure out a way to make their money last, or they purchase a certain thing and it runs out too fast or it lasts too long. They may have a difficult time sort of regulating the in and outflow of physical goods or material goods or anything related to the 3D. And there's the Ace of Pentacles in reverse. So that may mean that there is a slowdown of finances. And that makes sense. If this is a Queen of Pentacles who struggles to sort of bring the money in, it could sort of reflect that their problem with balancing finances, or bringing their own money in, or bringing money in at all in a stable way, reflects in that Ace of Pentacles, where there might not be, there might not be consistent financial flow, or there might not be a new opportunity to be able to make or keep money, or have opportunities to learn how to balance that better. We have a Queen of Wands in reverse. So then there's this energy of a feminine energy with their fire energy in reverse. So they could be having problems with what they're doing. They could have problems with doing something. They may have a problem with starting things or accomplishing tasks. They could have an issue with confidence. They may sort of doubt themselves or be like less confident. They could have their baser instincts sort of take themselves over when it comes to the fire energy. It can represent sexuality. It sort of could be a problem with that. Or they could have a problem with regulating their emotions when it comes to their temper. So they may be aggressive or passive aggressive. They may have some sort of block creatively, or some sort of block in their ability to actualize their plans. And they may sort of either come off as like, they may come off like I said, too hot tempered, or they're sort of unpredictable. Wheel of Fortune's in the upright. So this talks about being at the top of the fortune wheel. This talks about being lucky. I feel like just because these energies are showing up in reverse doesn't necessarily mean that they are. Sometimes it could mean that they feel as if they are, or that something is sort of making them feel as if they're not well or not doing well. Sometimes that's just an experience and not necessarily the reality. So there could be this reality where there is a fortune, or there is a wheel of fortune in the upright, where they are doing well and they are lucky and they are experiencing okay, like some kind of fortune and some kind of luck. Three of Cups in the upright. Yeah, so then there's this connection with a group of individuals, a social group or a friend group. Like I said, just because someone is temporarily or currently in the reverse doesn't mean that they can't be welcome into a group, or they can't be social, or they can't celebrate. Yeah, they can absolutely do that. Even if they are sort of currently experiencing financial loss, or currently experiencing a feeling of being insecure because of it. So, that Queen of Pentacles, Ace of Pentacles could have very well manifested that Queen of Wands feeling, where that this person needed to feel like they could bring the money in order for them to feel confident. And if they're struggling with that, they may struggle with their self-image. But they still are okay because they're still having this relationship connection, friendship connection, where they're celebrated for who they are, not necessarily what they're able to offer all the time. With the Star in the upright. Yeah, and that reality where even if they're struggling in some way, specifically if they're struggling in something that makes them feel as if who they are isn't like the core piece of their identity, or the part of themselves that they really see as like representation of their true self, isn't working out for them now, they could sort of feel that their identity is shaken. While they're still able to come together and celebrate each other and support each other and be okay with that. That's their real fortune, and that puts them in that Star energy where they're feeling hopeful and they're feeling like whatever it is they're experiencing currently, they can get over it, they can recover from it, they can make something better happen. And then it sort of is a bit of like an example to other people. Like it's like a sort of shining a light upon the potential for growth and the potential for renewal even after a struggle. Page of Cups in reverse. There's a lot of pages out here today, and I was just thinking, how do I sort of make sense of this? Well, sometimes the page can represent, even if there is an adult here on the board, if this is an adult, and they're in their adult self, right? Sometimes there's an aspect of their child, like self, or their past, or something that they haven't quite been able to overcome, that kind of comes out sometimes in a reading, where there's a piece of themselves that is sort of not necessarily stuck, but maybe in something that they're feeling like regresses them, like some sort of trauma or some sort of insecurity or some sort of lack of experience or lack of knowledge, where they could sort of come off as inexperienced, and they could sort of kind of feel insecure about their ability to do a certain thing. So from the start of the Page of Cups, there's this person in this energy where they're like they don't have as much experience with connecting and communicating and sharing their emotions, but from what it looks like here, even though the Star energy is there, and even though they have that Three of Cups, and even though the Wheel of Fortune is there, there's still that fear with the Page in reverse. There's still that fear of being open and expressing emotions. Like there's still that fear of being vulnerable and connecting. And it sort of comes out, or is sensed in that feeling of being in a childlike sort of way, where someone may have experienced rejection or may have experienced some sort of feeling of not being good enough when they were younger, and it kind of comes out in their reality now. But even though that's the way they feel, that's a Ten of Pentacles. So it's like a group of people and an entire community or family is wealthy and safe and cares for each other, and there's intergenerational wealth and interrelational relational wealth. So they all support each other, and it goes back a long time, and it will keep going. Even though they may not necessarily always feel or always experience that feeling of being okay.